thank you so much, Hauwa, for making the time and coming here for the interview. I'm going to start by, if you could introduce yourself to our audience.
My name is Hauwa Ibrahim. I'm a lawyer. Yeah, I was a visiting professor at Harvard Divinity School and a visiting professor in over 24 countries across the 5 continents in the world.
Oh, wow. That's a big, flex. I am a professor at 2 different universities in 2 different countries. So Hauwa, our first question is, where did you grow up?
I grew up in a little village that is actually not on the map. It's called Hinna, and it's in Gombe State, and the northern part of Nigeria is northeast of Nigeria.
Oh, wow. Okay. In our culture, Hinna means crazy, which is very hard to explain. It's like our coloring that's put on hand. I wish I could explain it better, but yeah. So growing up, who was your inspiration? That one person who you thought you would want to be them growing up?
I grew up with my grandfather and my mother. And so the issue of inspiration was something foreign. It's nothing like inspiration. I grew up in a very tiny little village of less than 2,000 people. Girls are not allowed to go to college or high school beyond elementary school, primary school, we call it. You cannot go farther. So after that, you get married. At the age of about 4 or 5, you learn how to be a girl, a woman, preparing yourself.
Yeah.
And so you are part of the kitchen chores. You are part of, we are farmers and we are also herders. My grandfather had animals, so we had to take them to the mountain. We grew, village is under a mountain. So we have to go to the mountain to take the cows and goats to take food and then bring them down to the river and the valley and come home. We do that like every day. In between, we have to go to the farm in the morning. So I grew up on the farmland, and I also grew up just doing other chores in the village. Most importantly, I was hawking. So you buy and you sell. So I bought from vegetables to peanut to fruits, just name it. If it is a season, we buy it, we put it on our head. We go from home to home in the village to sell. And during the market day, which is on a Thursday, we take it to the market to sell. So I was hawking from the age of 4. And that is what every other girl was doing. So it was not that I was special. I just did what every other person was doing. So inspiration was not really a word that we know. We just need to survive.
It's heartbreaking, but also a totally different angle. I have been doing these series and I've been talking to all these different people, and me being one of them, everyone had that privilege of doing, looking up to someone. And you're the first person who had to be the adult, even if when you are a kid, and look up to your own self, because that was the only first thing that you had to survive. So thank you so much for sharing that. So our third question is, what is it that you do right now? Now, I personally know, but if you would be okay with describing or explaining your work to the people who are watching this.
So I actually became educated by accident because at the age of 10, I was given out in marriage to a very older person. At the age of 11, I didn't get married, because when you are given out in marriage doesn't mean that you have to get married immediately to the husband's place. So at the age of 11, I ran away from the village.
Oh, wow.
And I went to a boarding school where I knew I had an admission, and it's called Women Teachers College, Azare. With vehicle, we didn't have the luxury of vehicles, so you have to take that truck,
yes,
like container. Then you have to sit on top of the goods. And so that's how I after about a day, I happened to get to where I was supposed to go. But it's also important to mention here that with the society where I grew up, I've never heard of the word pedophile. the society brings up a child. So it took a village to bring up a child. So every child is belong to the society, belongs to everybody. So I wasn't afraid to run away because I knew if I pick somewhere, somebody will take care of me. But I was running away to school. So fast forward, I also became a lawyer by accident. And also, like I said, went to teach at Harvard by accident. Before Harvard, I was at Yale. I had a gig at Stanford. And then I ended up at Oxford in the United Kingdom, 2020, 2021. Sort of a hunger and thirst for knowledge because that is just my makeup in a way. So that has pushed me to all these Ivy League colleges because I really want to see, so what is different about this knowledge? So I push myself to that. But on the bigger scheme of things, as what am I doing right now, it's always little. My past is what is making me to look for a future, but not a future for me, for a future of the same all kinds of children in the villages, not only in my communities, but beyond, to see how I could make a difference. So I incorporated the Peace Institute, which is incorporated in Massachusetts in the United States, with a status of 5013C, just like Wellesley College, where both you and I are fellows. But it's a small scale, and we have focused on 4 basic things so far. We started with how do we reduce violent extremism in our society, because I come from a society, maybe you understand it better, because of where you are coming from. With the Taliban's, we have the Boko Haram, and the Boko Haram is also like designated terrorist organization. But our country is over 200 million people, my country, in Nigeria. So in the north, we have over 100 million Muslims. And that is where Boko Haram is raging and violence is very high. So my focus is how do we reduce violence extremism? So that was one. The second was how do we do that through the powers of mothers? So we started a project called Mothers Without Borders. And I have had a gig with the Hashemite Kingdom of Jordan. So when I was in Jordan for 1 year, 2014 to 2015, I was able to work with mothers of ISIS leaders in this camp called Zatari, which is like 1 million people in one camp. And so I have learned a lot, and also with my experiences in Boko Haram in my country. And we had a background of how do we look at it in a bigger picture. And I work with a bit of Al-Shabaab in Kenya and in Somalia. So we brought women to Harvard University. The first meeting was 2016. And so we collate around best practices of how the power of mothers could be used to slow down violent extremism. Then we move from that project of Mothers Without Borders to the phenomenology of the soft power of mother. So we started graduating, we are interrogating more. We want to really reach out, not only to write academic papers, but to see how we can turn academic into social action, into social justice issues. And not only us, we want to get allies, and we don't mind giving out our ideas. You own it, it's not our issue. We just want it out there, and then you take it and run with it. So this is a third thing we've been doing with this institute. And the last one is STEAM, which is science, technology, engineering, arts, and maths. And this basically is suggesting that if we really want to slow it, violence extremism, we have to start from the children. So we are looking into the future 100 years from now. Our bones will be in our graves and we are no longer remembered. But what is it that we are going to implant now? So we started getting the youth from the ages of 10 to 14 to see how we can give them an alternative to violence at that age. And you can equip their mind and their mindset by some other skills that we wanted to give them. So I have students from Wellesley, and then of course from University of Rome, and some from China that I'm still tutoring as a professor. So during summer like this, our next project is to July 2022. We go to Nigeria and we reach schools, and then we have this project with the students. They are mainly science project, science, technology, engineering, arts, and maths. We have this year about 47 activities. We do 6 weeks on the field. We give them our syllabus. The first one we did 2019, they owned the syllabus and they started what they call the science fair around it, like the trade fair, but this is science fair. And for us, it's something that makes us very happy and joyful. And so partly this is what I'm doing. If I'm not doing that, I'm traveling, like you pointed out. I'm actually in Strasbourg today in France, and I am consulting with the European Parliament. So I do some other things by the side, but my main objective is to make the world a better place than I found it.
Amazing, amazing, Hauwa. You have been an inspiration to me from the time I have joined Wellesley College, and I'm just in awe. The more I listen to you, the more I want to be you someday. Amazing. So our fourth question is, why do you do what you do now? From what I'm listening, from what you have had to see in your childhood, or the things that you have been exposed to over the course of your academic year, of course it might have drawn you into starting your work or focusing on STEAM or working with the mothers of the leaders when it comes to ISIS and any other extremist group that you think might be using religion. But if you could explain it to our audience, why do you do it? What's that one thing that drives you to doing it? And also, what made you choose it? I don't know if that happened to you, but there are specific moments in your life where you're like, yes, I'm on the right path and I'm going to continue with this. So maybe if you would like to answer these two questions for us.
I wish there was one thing that makes me to do it. And when you are speaking, I was just thinking, why do I do what I do? And I have no idea. But just to say that while I was, had a bit of where I was coming from, I always want to say, I think that there are girls in the village, maybe the same age of 4 or 6 or 10, that are amazing potentials, that they are the world changers of tomorrow.
Yes.
And we are wasting away.
Yeah.
And that where can I find just that one girl, that one boy, that one person? And even if I make the person smile to believe in themselves, I think my mission is done for a day. So there is something in me that cannot rest until I'm able to sort of reach out to as many as I could. I was in an exhibition at The Hague yesterday, and there were about maybe 30 to 40 ambassadors, and I was supposed to speak. And 2 or 3 ambassadors hung on to me till about 1 a.m. in the night, and we were talking. And at the end of the day, I came and lay on my bed and my pillow, and I said to myself, that's my mission, isn't it? I wasn't there for the exhibit. I was there to speak to the ambassador of Malta, who cannot let go. I was there to click to the ambassador of Pakistan, the ambassador of Palestine, who was there, a female, in The Hague. And then the ambassador of Nigeria, who came, he came and left, but the one for Ghana stayed in Cameroon, stayed behind for this up to that midnight, 1 a.m. And they want more, they want to hear more, they want what they can do. These are ambassadors in their own right. And at the end of the day, we had this conversation that we kept on the text and whatever. But I think that's my mission, just to share some of the stories. And why do I do that? I have no idea. It just comes from the guts. It comes from the inside out. It's not I don't do it for money, because for the most part, 80% of my work is not paid for. And I don't know how I survive. But I am surviving, I'm thriving, I'm feeling good. I hunger and thirst for no material resources. If you want to really get me off, give me material resource in exchange of my mind. I am not interested in that. So because money is not my forefront, it also helped me to the purity of the heart to be able to reach out and to do what we can do. Pashana, I know you are doing much more than I can imagine or I'm doing. And so you are also an inspiration. I'm so glad to have this conversation.
Oh, even if I do in my life, like a quarter of what you do on your daily basis, I would be extremely happy. And when you were saying that, when you have purity of heart, yeah, and you don't have like, the need for money and everything, that's one thing I remember my father used to say that, when you become someone somewhat confident and representative of your people, and you let go this need for money, you have the guts. God gives you the guts to be the representative of those people. So I think that's definitely the reason you do what you do and makes you the amazing person that you are. So I know you're a researcher and you have done some amazing research and you have also written some amazing papers and books. But if you had to pick 2 to 3 things that you have done research on, which the world has a general idea about or has a bias towards, what are 2 to 3 things that you would break their bias or myth towards today, that you would like to share?
My first book, which is on Amazon, it became like a bestseller. It's called Practicing Sharia Law in Sharia Courts.
Yeah.
It was for me, it was my baby. That was the first book I've written. I've done as a lawyer, been a prosecutor and defense counsel. And so I wrote briefs and plaintiff claims and defendant brief, whatever. So for me to sit down to write about 500-page book was like the top of it all. So I was really excited about my book. So this is one book I will recommend that people that have access to could get it. I have a few more copies. If by chance anybody want to, through you want, I'm more than happy to send you some copies for you to give out. So it's one book I will recommend because there I really examine the concept of Islam and justice and the law. And in between them, intertwined, is interpretation and translation.
Yeah.
And how the mixture of culture and religion could not be a best way of understanding a religion if you mix it with culture.
Yeah.
Or when you say Allah said, or Allah said this, okay, so tell me where Allah said it. It's not your imagination. If it is a text in the hadith, show me. If it is a hadith that has been accepted by scholars as a good way of conversing around it, if it is a Quran, which is jurisprudence, show me. But just don't tell me that Allah said something out of your own imagination. So that has been, I teased it out, and I was more focused on the cases that I defended, which are cases of hudud. Hudud, of course, as you know, are the criminal aspect of Islamic Sharia, especially the Sunni one. And I pieces out one particular one, which is zina, because I was defending women sentenced to death by stoning in my country. So I look at zina and really teased it out and supported it. So 25 pages of the 500, close 500 pages, over 25 pages are bibliography. Wow. So if I cite Hanafi, which is a Sunni school of thinking, I will bring Hanbali and Shafi'i and Maliki to get all their interpretations. So it's difficult for you to box me into a corner because I have brought all this major school of thinking for you to see. So I use a lot of bibliography to prove one single point. They change nothing. Actually, the Sultan, who is the main religious leader, was like, this is a breath of fresh air. So it was good for us as researchers to dig deeper and go beyond what every other person has gone to prove our worth, so that we are sought after, not because of our family's connection, but the content of what we're able to give out for the people. So that's number one. The second one I wanted to speak about is my recent work on the phenomenology of the soft power of mothers. Yes. And this is when we are turning into a documentary.
Oh, wow.
And so this is more on researches on Al-Shabaab, Boko Haram, ISIS, and the difficulties of those groups that are joined together somehow, paying allegiance to themselves, and how they look at Westernization from a point of view of creeping Hollywood into Islam. And so they become more hardened because they could see both the Western media and the Western setup is really creepy. So they want to protect Islam, and then they sort of overdo it. And for me, it's amazing. In my interviews, I did an ethnographic research, and I have been doing it for the past 3 years. So I spent time at Oxford trying to look at the philosophical interpretation of soft power, but within the context of what I've been working with gender justice and Islam. And so the piece is online, and you can check it on the peaceinstitute.com. I wrote an article about that, so it's there. But I'm also developing it into a book. So it's a piece that people that are interested in the combination of soft power as opposed to hard power could find. We interview women from all spheres of life, rich, poor, rural, urban, and everyone has a story, a
Yeah.
powerful story to share. And I left with two basic things: that women have power.
Yes.
And I know it even before now. But it was concretized in this my research. And we don't need to go and say women liberation. No, we don't need women liberation, because we already have the power. It's just that how do we use it to do the good we want to do in the society? And we have to really look deeper into it. So that is and the last one is my interrogation on reason. And this is a little bit philosophical, but more because of the technology that is now creeping also very hard into our work as human rights defenders or activists. The technology is changing a lot of things, and because a lot of it is done behind the shadows, we don't know what is happening. Me and you have this gadget now, we are seeing each other and we are talking. I am somewhere in France, in Strasbourg, you are somewhere in the United States. But inside this gadget, we don't know who is tapping, what information are they getting, what data are they getting, what are they going to use it for, and how we have voluntarily submitted ourselves to it. And we do it innocently, but the people that are behind gathering this, trying to make a model out of us so that they can use that to remove our ability to think. And I have two children. One of them is 19. And yesterday he picked, 2 days before I left Italy, I was with him. He picked up his phone and he's like, Siri, what is today? Today was Friday. Why did the Siri need to tell you today is Friday? So this ability to remove the ability for us to think that we don't even know what's today. And you can think about any spheres of life. It's data in and data out, garbage in, garbage out. And they want us to depend on a database for us to do our research, to do a lot of things as researchers. But who is behind those data? Who is behind the artificial intelligence? Who is behind the algorithm? Who dictate what? And so I'm having conversation about when reason lose its reasonableness or when reason is on trial. So I think what a lot of the work we do, both as human rights defenders and activists, researchers, it will be tweaked by some other forces that we have no control, by some shadow operation that with misinformation and disinformation would drop everything we have done to zero. So I'm interrogating it right now, and I call it radical imagination. And so this is what I am working on, and who knows where I'm going with it. It's just all there.
I very much look forward to reading it or whatever form you presented to the world. And I also hope to send the book that you talked about, the first one where you talk about zina, but also with all the major schools, school of thought in Islam, to be sent back to my home, to the people who are running my country right now, so that they would understand what is the difference, and also on a general view, what women rights are in Islam, which they have completely forgotten. All right, so we are almost on our last question. So any suggestions for anyone who would want to follow your footsteps? I know there might be people who would be watching it from Nigeria, or anyone who would be watching it from the MENA region, or people in general who would want to focus on the things that you do, which might be conflict and focus on children and mothers, because most of your work is with mothers and their children, and more focused on the future, but also on how do we hold each other accountable in today's world, where companies have taken over what was supposed to be a normal living or social society. So what is that one or two suggestions that you would give to any young scholar, any young researcher, or anyone in general who would want to follow your footsteps?
My girlfriend said to me many times, don't tell anybody to follow you, Hauwa, because
I understand why she said that, but yes.
Situation. And so I will be cautious to ask anybody to follow in my footsteps, because my mother sometimes described me as a rebellious child. I just rebel against everything. And I tell my son, I rebel for good. If there is anything like that, rebellious for good. Let me say three things quickly. The first one is, don't take a no for an answer.
Yes.
Have that confidence that no does not exist. In my head, it is not part of my lexicon. If I want to do something, I do it. I believe in it first, and I do it. And the second thing I try to do in life, and I encourage people to consider it, is that what I said earlier. I always wake up, one prayer I do every single morning is that I will have a pure heart and a clean hands. So whatever you do, make sure that is that sort of purity in it, a clean heart, pure heart, and a clean hands, that you don't dip your fingers into what doesn't belong to you because you compromise what you do. In each of our environment, our societies, our settings, we all have challenges. It's not the same. And look at what you think you can change. What is it? What is your gift? What are you gifted in? Are you gifted in listening? Are you gifted in being out to act as activists? Are you gifted in just being in society, in a place where people just want to see your presence? Like I remember, I just go to mourning homes, and if you cry, I cry with you. And so maybe that is your gift. Just be in a place where somebody just needs your presence there to just cry out things, and that you are there as a present. Or you are gifted as Ashana, that can put a lot of things together to move a pendulum in the side of education, or trying to change society one way or the other. Look for your gift. We all have it. We all came to this world with something. Look for your gift and see how you can use it. Don't take it back with you. Use it as long as you're here, and interrogate it as much as possible and make good use of it. And the last thing I would say is, I'm a person of faith, and that has really helped me believe in something. And I don't want to give you to say, believe in this, believe in something, believe that beyond us, because before we came, my mother just passed on in October 2021. She's no longer with us, but I'd had her for 77 years. And it reminds me daily that we are here for only a moment.
Yeah.
And when we realize that we are not here forever, then we know that there is somewhere we are going back to. And that one helped to concretize our faith in we believe in Allah, and some people believe in something else, and have faith in something, believe in something. And finally, if it is all just one day, one issue, one person, one day, one time, don't hesitate. And I say, if you have an idea, as some of us will crawl with the idea, some of us will want to walk with the idea, some of us will want to fly with the idea, but please don't be still.
Yeah.
You'll either walk, crawl or walk or fly, but don't be still. Do something so that the world we found will be a better place than we found it.
Well, it would be an amazing talk for anyone who would listen to us. Thank you so much for making the time, Hauwa. It's such a blessing to be able to talk to you. And I have been struggling with so much mental health these days. It was quite a reflective interview with you, but thank you so much for everything that you have done and you continue to do. And I look forward to seeing you when you're in town. So for now, thank you so much. Take care. Bye.
Thank you, Bashana, and good luck. Bye-bye.